They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats.
If I said to you that swans were being eaten in royal parks in this country, that carp were being taken out of ponds and eaten in this country by people who come from cultures that have a different... Would you agree it's happening here?
Are migrants eating swans in the UK? Or carps, apparently. So I know it sounds crazy, and it may remind you of something Trump said before the election in his debate with Kamala Harris. Which, is still pretty iconic, what he said and how long people talked about it. But we have now had something similar in the UK as Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK, the right-wing populist party, who are leading in the polls, when he made a similar claim on LBC while on air. And it is deja vu for me because we're sort of ramping up to the next general election in a few years' time. But first, let's just remind ourselves what Trump said. And I'm assuming you guys are going to be able to hear this, but just shout if you can.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Swans.
Right. So I think a lot of people agree that this was totally ridiculous for him to say. I've seen a video or two of some rando from the States apparently having eaten a cat, but I have no idea if it's been proven. I have no idea if this is a ubiquitous problem. I certainly don't think it would have been important enough to raise in the debate where you have so many important arguments against illegal migration, let alone them eating pets. But I mean, it sort of put him more on the map for the election because people could not stop talking about it. And I think, while I think it's ridiculous, and I think Trump is absolutely ridiculous and all the stuff he comes out with, and some of it is, to me, quite alarmist. It can be dangerous at times, but there is no denying that he can spark a conversation, right? And unless he is just downright crazy, then I think, and I've heard this said before, that Trump might say things in a hyperbolic way intentionally and basically lie and exaggerate the facts to get people thinking about certain issues. I mean, people say that he had this intention when he talked about, Gaza being the new Dubai or whatever, the new Silicon Valley of the Middle East. And I don't know if he actually thinks that, but some people were saying, no, it's just a tactic to get like the Israeli government to respond, to get Hamas to respond. So I don't know. But it'd be nice to believe that there's a method to his madness, but I think maybe sometimes there's not. So let's see what Nigel Farage said.
Carp and swan. If I said to you that swans were being eaten in royal parks in this country, that carp were being taken out of ponds and eaten in this country by people who come from cultures that have a different... Would you agree it's happening here?
I've certainly read... I didn't know about swans. I've read about carp.
Yeah,
fish,
well, there you go. So, look, neither of us can prove or disprove.
Who are taking the carp and the swans?
People who come from countries where that's quite acceptable.
Well, I've read headlines that it's Eastern Europeans, Romanians and people like that.
So I believe.
Is that what you've heard?
So I believe.
Are they?
Well, there were reports.
Right. So, are they eating the swans? Well, before we kind of dig into whether this is happening or not, and I'm still not sure, to be honest, but I have lots of interesting videos to show you. There's no denying, if you're paying attention to what's going on in the UK and Reform UK, that as of late, Nigel Farage has become more emboldened in things he's saying. In the past, he refused to say he was on board with mass deportations. He refused to say that he was concerned about the rate of demographic change. And you might be familiar with this, online right that people refer to. It's sort of the online right-wing people on Twitter who are pretty hardline on these issues. They don't like if one of these politicians tries to get a bit of a middle ground, and then they accuse them of being a socialist, basically. Now, I've had the opinion that Nigel Farage, in my opinion, you might disagree, some people still think he's a clown, but I think that he is very intelligent and he understands the public mood and temperature, and he is choosing his times to come out with certain rhetoric and certain opinions because it's sort of been possibly his strategy to warm up the public, win over more of the center ground, more of the skeptical people, to try and prove that he's a serious contender, before then, trying to drop in some more hardline policies. And we've seen that this week. He has come out with this pretty strong you know, even the online right in that sense approves of this legal migration. So they've talked about illegal migration, the boats and everything, but they plan on abolishing indefinite leave to remain, which is essentially a form of settled status you get after being here for 5 years. It's quite lenient and easy to get. And the problem of that is you're not a citizen, but then you have access to our healthcare system. You can go on benefits, you can go on universal credit, job seekers allowance, all of that. And it's estimated by his accounts that this is going to cost us over £200 billion based on this Boris wave, the large influx of mass migration during Boris Johnson's reign. And, you know, they're going to be abolishing it. They're going to be revoking it from people. And then he's going to be revoking benefits from foreign nationals. Now, I think this is a good idea. People think it's heartless. People say it's racist. But when you look at the policies of other European countries, of America, of Australia, of Switzerland, of India, of Bangladesh, all these places that I researched, you know, they all have much tougher policies on how to gain citizenship. And, you know, a lot of people think it's common sense that as a foreign national, you can't just move to a country and then live off their welfare state, right? And I'm Irish and we have our own agreement with the UK. It's very different. So that none of this would affect me. I don't even have ILR. But to be honest, you know, I've always been working. I've never lived off the welfare state. But if anyone, if the decision was, you know, if you're not a UK citizen, which I'm technically not, I can't go on welfare, you know, I would think that's kind of fair. And then it would motivate me to actually potentially become a citizen. So the reason I'm saying this is because this comment about the Swans, I don't think he would have said 6 months ago. I think he's becoming more confident with them leading in the polls. I am a bit worried that, you know, he's going to go too far with some of this stuff. And again, it's just like with the Trump thing, was this really necessary to say, you know, are there better arguments to be had? So let's look at this other video from Andrea Jenkins on Sky News with this very disgruntled lefty next to her, where she was challenged on the Swans. And yeah, she's a politician in Reform UK, the mayor of Lincolnshire, I think. So yeah, let's go.
But the problem is, Andrew, there's now a pattern of Reform politicians saying things that, frankly, the people who are actually at the front line of these things go, there's no evidence for this.
But can I just say that I was a councillor in Boston, and there was...
Her eye makeup is pretty dreadful, isn't it? Like, sorry to say, that's probably just typical, oh, she's a woman, you're commenting on her looks straight away, which, you know, caught red-handed there. But it kind of looks like, you know, a 13-year-old girl going to her first disco. I don't know. I like her a lot, but let me know what you agree.
A serious issue with our ducks on the river with them being stolen and eaten. It is a fact. Come to Boston, ask the local people.
I mean, I don't know about the case in Boston, but in this case
and that's
here,
going back 10 years
there is
ago.
clearly no evidence.
Well, clearly, would you like to come to Boston?
Andrea?
Are you doing yoga there or something? You know, to try and calm yourself from, you know, speaking on a panel with somebody who's in reform? I mean, very bizarre reaction you have there.
Andrew, but there is, again, like, there is no evidence for this. You accept that? I mean, the people
Well,
literally...
I've seen evidence.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the best thing about all of this, because I do think it's stupid, I think it's ridiculous to be talking about this of all issues, but it's really funny seeing all these lefties just freak out about someone accusing people of eating birds. They can't bear it. I mean, that's the best part of it. I just, you know, it is shameful, but watching these people melt is pretty fun. And that one was on Newsnight a while ago, and with Zia Youssef, the head of policy at Reform UK, and she just couldn't handle it. She was huffing and puffing and umming and ahhing, rolling her eyes. You know, they really just cannot handle it. They cannot handle it.
In Boston myself, 10 years ago, over the ducks.
We're not talking about Boston. We're talking about swans in royal parks. Your leader went on the radio and said he had heard, or he...
Well, he'd heard. He'd heard.
Yeah, but you can't just go around saying you've heard stuff, can you?
Apparently you can. Apparently you can. The royal parks who run the park said there was absolutely no evidence of this. It is extraordinary.
What do you think they'd actually want to put that out there?
Okay. Yeah, I don't think she did a great job there. But overall, I kind of feel sorry for some of these politicians, because Nigel Farage has gone on air and said just such a stupid thing. And whether it's true or not, it's just a bit stupid to be talking about this, in my opinion. And I mean, she's then having to go on air and defend it, of course, because She's part of the party. So let's have a look at the evidence behind this, okay? And there does appear to be some, but I am unsure. Maybe you can help me out. So this Sangeeta woman, who's quite left-wing, I think, and outspoken on Twitter, she was asking Grok, is there any evidence that ducks were being stolen and eaten by migrants in Boston, Lincolnshire? Grok said, after reviewing multiple sources, including news reports and official statements, I found no credible evidence of ducks being stolen and eaten by migrants in Boston. So it appears that this is not happening there by any accounts, at least not on a scale in which we can gather accurate data about it, right? So the News Agents, which is one of my favorite hate watch left-wing podcasts with Emily Maitlis and Lewis Goodall, they, of course, were very outraged by this. You can see what the F is Farage doing. And let's see what they had to say. So I think they played the clip of him first. Okay, here we go. Give it to me.
Yeah. Have we got evidence that swans are being eaten by immigrants in royal parks?
They're eating your cats. They're eating your dogs. They're eating your pets. I mean, it is literally, you've swapped out the animal and you've retained the sense, which is that immigrants are coming for your pets.
The royal parks have been forced to deny that this has taken place today.
But I think it was a nice touch.
Have they?
Yes.
He says that like the poor royal parks having to take time out of their precious day to deny the fact that swans are being eaten.
They actually said
The royal parks have let me just go quick. Royal parks have rejected Nigel Farage claims that migrants are killing and eating swans from their grounds. A royal park spokesperson has said, "We've not had any incidents reported to us of people killing or eating swans in London's 8 royal parks."
So the question is this working for Nigel Farage or not? I mean, given the state
Well,
of
wait,
the polls.
the question first is like, what the fuck is he doing? Sorry,
Yeah,
but let's not skip over that too
no,
quickly.
of course, but okay, what the fuck
But
he's
those
doing?
two things are related. I mean,
Yeah, but what the fuck he's doing is borrowing from Trump's tactics. When everyone snorted derisively when Trump talked about what was happening in Springfield, Ohio.
Yeah.
But he had the conversation then on what were illegal Haitians doing in your cities and the threat that they posed. And that worked actually quite effectively for him. And although a lot of people thought this was going to be an absolute catastrophe for Trump to kind of invoke this whole idea that people were eating the cats and the dogs, which they weren't, it focused the conversation on immigrants. And so much of the tactics and the methods of Nigel Farage are straight out of the Trump playbook. When Trump was asked to do,
I mean, he's not wrong in a way. I think Farage is so much more moderate than Trump and is a lot more responsible in what he says in general. But honestly, I mean, these people are becoming more and more deranged lately because they know that they're losing and they know that he's on track to be the next prime minister. So to me, the mature thing would be to kind of ignore this, but I guess they know it's going to get views and everything. And that's the thing. No matter what Farage says in these scenarios, whether they're ridiculous, whether they're hyperbolic and exaggeration, or maybe even not true, excuse me, the front pages are of him and the Reform Party several times a week. The Conservatives, the Tories, Kemi Badenoch are really not being heard right now. And whether it's true or not, I think people are going to talk about it. I'm not really convinced that this was a good tactic for Trump. And, to agree with them on a point, I think if this is not true, or at the very least, there is very little evidence for it, and it's not some sort of epidemic of migrants eating swans, I think, sure, you could use that to demonize migrants. And perhaps if you're a migrant, strolling around the park, just enjoying your day, people are going to start watching you, see if you're eating swans. But I mean, I think that's a strong statement. Jeremy in the comments asked, is this live? Yes, it is. People get confused when I play a premiere because they think it's live, but this is actually live. So I hope you enjoy. Now, there are several videos and posts going around with apparent evidence of swan eating and bird eating. So let's have a look at this one.
I'm going to get someone to check what bird this is. I think it might be a swan. I'm not sure. But do you know what a swan is, sir? You know the big white birds that you see on the park?
Hershey
You
heads
know what
to
a
the
swan
kitchen
is?
to take a closer look at what's cooking.
Well, they obviously haven't passed the English language test like you're supposed to.
You see the bones in this bird? Because it's not a chicken, I'm a bit concerned. There's a law against people taking animals off. You told them that, yeah. And it's very serious. It's very serious if that happens.
I mean, look, if that's just a random swan that they've lifted out of a pond, I mean, you can say it's wrong, but it's also just really gross. I mean, to have some bird that you just lifted out of a pond just stewing in your kitchen, no.
Concerned that what's in the pot is no chicken, Hershey heads to the back garden to look for evidence in the bins.
I know, it's a bit disgusting, isn't it?
And the contents of the bins is a little suspicious.
See, the problem is there's a hell of a lot of big white feathers in here. Yeah. I know, and problem is could be anything from goose to swan.
She's like, well, see, guys, the problem is there does happen to be feathers in here. You know, they're being caught red-handed in whatever's going on. So she's from the RSPCA, the Royal Prevention Animal Cruelty or whatever, the charity. But she's being very diplomatic in, you know, basically having all the evidence, but just still not wanting to fully accuse them of killing and eating a swan.
For now, I'm going to go. But what I need you to make sure that you say to everybody here is that they're not allowed to take anything from the park. I'm not saying you did. I'm not saying you didn't.
The
I mean, whatever they did, it is dodgy.
Eyewitness reports combined with the evidence are difficult for the family to explain, but the young man does his best.
Do you know what I mean? They're not alive.
He's suggesting that they may have bought the birds and released them in the park for the children to chase, and that's what the witnesses saw.
Can you believe it? No. We bought those birds so we could let them go in the park and let our children play. Doesn't even make any sense. And what then? You decided to eat them? So, I mean, this video seems pretty damning, right? And it's easy if people get carried away. But when I saw it, you know, I thought, when is this from? Is this recent? You know, is there more context to this, even though it seems pretty clear what happened? And then we have this article from the London Economic that says video claiming to show migrants eating swan was from 15 years ago. So Turning Point USA posted this, or Turning Point UK. Yeah, so the UK arm of Charlie Kirk, rest in peace, the organization he set up, a conservative think tank or organization. And they claim that it has done the rounds on social media. It claims to show an RSPCA worker catching migrants eating swans and has been viewed by more than 230,000 times. But apparently it is from 15 years ago. Fair enough. I mean, it still happened. But is it a relevant election topic now? I don't really think so. Like I said, there are many, many good arguments against illegal migration. You know, just the pure unfairness of it, the security issues, the fact that you can't be a nation without borders, you know, the rise in sexual crime, kids being sexually assaulted near the hotels. So the arguments are pretty strong without throwing this in. And it annoys me when something like Turning Point UK decides to put this clip out when they know it's 15 years old. I just think it's quite disingenuous and it weakens their position. But there are some more videos. So here's another one, right?
This guy just cracked the duck's neck, bro, taking it.
There's someone just strolling off with a swan. The poor birds, you know, I eat meat, but whenever people eat animals that you don't eat, I always just think it's really sad. You know, when people eat horses, I'm like, or dogs, it's like, what are you doing? So that appears to be some evidence. Again, no idea when this is from. Can you even prove this is the UK? I mean, the guys in it have English accents, but that's all we've got. We then have this one, location Winsford Marina. So apparently they do know where this is. And here are some gentlemen in black that appear to be of another ethnic heritage, you know, capturing swans in Asda bags, which is one of our supermarket chains. Oh, these poor swans. You know, normally they just get fed bread, but in this case, they're apparently being captured. So Connor Tomlinson said, Nigel Farage is right. Migrants are abducting and eating ducks, geese, and swans from Britain's parks. Many countries have not reached the stage of civilization where the world outside the home is worthy of consideration. It's just wilderness full of eating food, full of either food or threats. So I see this argument a lot too. And again, a lot of the online right are just constantly trying to paint third world immigrants out to be completely uncivilized and savages. And that may be true for some, but I don't think it's fair to say it's true for all, because you do get immigrants from North Africa, from the Middle East, who do come here and integrate. You know, there's a lot who are not, but I think it's I think it's unfair to just characterize them all as these like savages that can't control themselves and just go out and eat random animals. So this is another video here.
Oh my God. What you do with that?
Yeah.
What you doing with that, bro?
I got it.
You gonna eat it?
Yeah.
You catch it outside?
Yeah, it's important now. Now it's a good.
Let me see.
Jesus Christ.
Let me see it. Is it dead?
Sorry, it's freezing a bit there.
Let me see. Let me see.
Okay, you got the drift. So they appear to be Muslims. I think there's two women in hijabs there, and they're just carrying a goose that they apparently captured. So, you know, it seems like that's also in the UK based on the accents. Here's another one from Turning Point UK. So, migrant caught stealing a swan in Scotland. The media is telling you this isn't happening.
What is going on here? He's on that swan, man.
What's his name, mate?
What's his name?
Right. So there you go. Apparently that's another one. I think this one we already saw. And yeah, I mean, there's a few videos going around, right? So I tweeted about this. I said, in a country of 70 million people and with a very high migrant population, you know, weird things are bound to happen. I mean, bestiality is a thing that's disgusting. That happens. You know, pretty much whatever you can think of in society probably happens. And these few cases were caught on video. So is Nigel Farage right? I think on some level, yes, because it does seem to have happened. Is it ubiquitous and an epidemic? And is it kind of something we should consider when taking into account migration policies? I'm dubious of that. I think it is. I just don't think it's necessary to focus on, but it's going to get a lot of attention, a lot of people getting mad. And like I said, the main thing for me is just the wokies melting down is kind of the funnest thing to see. But I do think it kind of lowers their integrity a little bit. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that it's good to focus on this issue? Do you believe that this is a real big problem in the UK? Or do you agree with me that perhaps we could be talking about other issues that are more important? So this is another kind of disingenuous post, right? So the Reform Daily said the left can't handle the truth. Last Andrea Jenkins after reports of swans being found near Windsor. Time you face reality and took back control of the borders. And then here's a article screenshot. Queen swan found cooked near Windsor Castle. The royal bird was found cooked with its feathers still attached in the middle of a popular picnic area. So there's a disgusting picture. I won't show you that. But look, this was 2013. So again, it's 2025. Are we going to be posting about this now when talking about our migration policy? I don't know. Here's another one. So a photo of some man with a swan. But again, the only thing that can kind of look a bit like England here is the yellow line. So I have no idea. if this is the UK, but that apparently is some more evidence. So that's the whole Swan fiasco. I hope you understand my arguments there. And then this was another clip, just briefly, that he went viral on. And you might be aware that Trump randomly came out with this assertion that paracetamol, or Tylenol, as you would say in America, I think they call it acetaminophen, that pregnant women shouldn't take it because it can lead to autism. And as far as the rest of the world goes, there's no evidence for that. I'm likely to believe that. But who knows? I mean, I'm open to being wrong about anything, but let's see what he had to say.
I wouldn't follow what Mr. Kennedy's department does. I'd listen to what they have to say, but I wouldn't follow it. And frankly, nor would I follow the World Health Organization.
When Donald Trump talks about links between paracetamol or Tylenol and autism, is he right?
I have no idea.
You think he might be right?
I have no idea. You know, we were told thalidomide was a very safe drug, and it wasn't. Who knows? Nick, I don't know. You don't know. He has a particular thing about autism, I think because there's been some in his family. He feels it very personally. I have no idea.
You wouldn't side with the medical experts who say it's dangerous?
I wouldn't. When it comes to science, I don't side with anybody. I wouldn't follow what Mr. Kennedy.
Yeah, I mean, again, I can agree with him in that science is never settled. That's true. I mean, any proven scientific theory is just true until it's unproven, right? There have been many medical scandals in the past of advice, operations, medication that turned out to be entirely ineffective or at worst, deathly. But this is paracetamol, right? I mean, I probably don't go a week without taking paracetamol at some stage. It's a very common over-the-counter drug. And, I do wonder, is he just being diplomatic here because he's pals with Trump and doesn't want to upset his ego? That's probably a part of it. But I suppose it ties into as well the kind of lack of trust people have since COVID on medical experts giving us advice. We've been told about all the lockdowns and standing six meters apart, which, I mean, that in itself was just turned out to be an entirely fabricated, advice plucked out of thin air. And people are still very angry about that. And naturally, people feel deceived. And it's a shame because, the concept of medical advice is still a real thing. And there are still legitimate pieces of medical advice you can follow. But we also had the NHS, putting kids on puberty blockers. So I understand the skepticism, but to say that he never trusts science, or what did he say? He said,
supposed to say it's dangerous.
I wouldn't, when it comes to science, I don't side with anybody.
Yeah, I think that's really stupid to say because I'm not a scientist, but I have to rely on scientific evidence for things. I don't have the experience, the skills, the training to just conduct my own experiments all the time. So he clearly is following science when it comes to lots of issues, whether he knows it or not. Does he go to the doctor and just say, I don't trust anything you say? Maybe he does. But I think that was quite foolish to say. So that's another thing people are freaking out over.